size of what and that's yeah, if you want me to expand on any of that.
We
I don't know.
lost you. At least I did, John. Yeah. If you
Oh,
could restate it.
oh, sorry.
No, it's all good.
I'm not sure where I cut off. The last thing I said was like maybe like my main point of my proposal is to have like more decentralized legal cannabis and psychedelics in the future through the blockchain, because if it's all on the same payment system, I guess, like then we're just dealing with governments. And then if we're like using the same business applications to different governments, it almost supersedes the local laws in my eyes. I don't know. There's a lot of potential there that I have to talk to more technical people, but
I think you're right, and that's one of the things where the conversation went last week as well, was how supply chains and the transparency around supply chains and getting the decentralization of these supply chains, and getting them out of the current people that control them, right? It's one of the great things about blockchain and crypto is that it's creating new systems and potentially replacing old systems. Then we also talked about how different supply chains need this, right? It's not just the plant medicine supply chains. It's not just the cannabis supply chains or the up and coming psychedelics that are used for therapeutic use. The food supply chains, whether we're talking about meat or agriculture, or harvesting from coffee. Coffee's a great one. Coffee's been able to utilize and leverage blockchain for a little while now. So yeah, I think it's a really good point that you bring up. I want to find a way, and using these opportunities to connect with you and connect with others, I really want to find a way that benefits the community, right? To understand how the community can benefit from taking advantage of this cannabis opportunity, because cannabis needs it, right? Cannabis is a very tight-knit community as well. Two or three like removals, right? 2 or 3 separations, and everybody knows everybody. It's literally that small. And I would imagine Cardano's the same. So what would be cool is that if we're looking at this as an opportunity to establish Cardano and Cardano's blockchain, or even Cardano's cryptocurrency, from like a use case. And I know that we've been talking a lot about use cases within Cardano. A business use case, I mean, cannabis is prime, it's ready, and it's starting from scratch. There's no old system to displace. We can quite literally define what the system is, as long as it works, and as long as there's a high level of workability. So like, I think right now in America, 2021, it's like a 21 or $22 billion industry. Well, they're expecting by 2026 for it to be, I think, 46 billion, and that's just in America. By 2028, they're expecting it to be close to $200 billion industry. So that, I think, gives Cardano a fucking huge opportunity to take a piece of that pie, right?
I would say just blockchain in general too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And part of it too is like the history of like the Silk Road and all that stuff, how it went wrong. But if we could do it right, then I think that would be major.
Yeah. And I think from my standpoint, from being in it now for 7 years, I think the starting point to do it right is education and transparency, right? So where does your product come from? What's happened to your product? And what matters to you as a consumer? Like, figuring out and solving that is going to empower the community, and it's going to empower everybody from seed to sale. I think the transactional side and the actual movement of goods, that's all going to be tightly controlled for a certain amount of time by the government, right? They're not going to let go of that because it's tax dollars, and they're motivated by tax dollars. But if we solidify a position as a cornerstone of the community through education, consumer care, transparency, decentralization, all of a sudden, the community is well primed for, you know, whatever comes next, depending on which way things evolve that are outside of the specific control. But you know, it's just you and I. Like, if you wanna dive into, like, you know, any of your, might as well take advantage of it, right?
Yeah, shit. I guess my main pitch is just I would like to do a DAO. Do you know about DAOs?
I'm learning
How
about
new?
them.
How new are you? Okay.
Very
So,
new, but I'm learning.
I mean, the basic concept is that there's smart contracts that allow you to have less employees and have automated transactions, basically.
Mhm.
I mean, one of the examples that really, like, I understood is, let's say that a farmer has insurance on his crop. Well, if the data tracks the amount of rain and there was a drought, then that'll show up in the blockchain through an oracle, and then they'll automatically get paid out their insurance, and they won't have to go through the process of litigation, or I don't know what you call it, with an insurance person.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking, if we can apply that same line of thinking towards the individual cannabis and psychedelic salesperson, then we can automate the process of, like say they have a certain amount of clients in a city, then we'll be able to put all the clients' information on the blockchain, but they'll still have the benefits of the blockchain to provide them privacy, but we'll still know, like, the person who is like the shaman person of that village will still know the information on the blockchain. And that's like the DID thing, I guess I'm saying, because
What's DID? I'm sorry to interrupt you. I don't know what DID stands for.
it's decentralized identity. It's
Oh, okay.
gonna be, it's like have you heard of them?
Have I heard of what?
Atala Prism?
No.
It's like, that's like the DID that the Cardano people are gonna make, basically.
Okay.
But it's a butterfly. But it's like allows you to have identification of other people, but in a secure way, and like you can add zero knowledge proofs and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know how much of this is coming through, but
I'm following. I think where I'm left is like, all right, cool. Understanding what you're talking about. Like, how do you want me to, like, you were saying that you wanted, you know, to tap my knowledge. Tell me.
I'm not sure exactly, because there's so much regulation. I just want to, like, what's the least regulation I can get away with, I guess. Like, that would be my main question.
So, I mean, there definitely is gray area, right? But the gray area is really down to movement, or is down to everything outside of handling the product, like physically taking possession of the product, changing its form, and then also the movement of money. That's highly regulated. And like we were talking about earlier in the conversation, the government is not going to let go of those things, right? Currently in America, it's a Schedule 1. You know, whether we think it's crazy or not, fine, it's a Schedule 1. And secondly, there's tax dollars now at play, you know? So anything outside of movement of money and movement of material, there's opportunities to engage with less regulation and oversight, government oversight. And that's what I've learned playing and operating in the industry for 7 years, right? All of our businesses, they're not regulated by the government, but that still means we have to operate according to the government rules in each state. So like in the state of Washington, and actually California, Oregon, Oklahoma, you're able to go in and out of facilities as visitors to provide your services as a business. But we can't take possession of cannabis ourselves because we don't own a license. And the license basically gives you the ability to take possession. And that's through the supply chain from seed all the way up to retail. Retail then is able to sell it. And that's another point of regulation is they don't let people even in the facilities or retail unless you're 21. Right. So that's another thing to be
right.
So
I guess I'm not talking about that sort of regulation. I'm more talking about like, how can I and because I mean the licensing is crazy, the expense. Like, can you get into retail and just get products shipped to you and not really have to deal with the licensing?
no, not in California, not in Oregon, not in Washington. You know where you can? Oklahoma. Seriously, you go to Oklahoma, like Oklahoma has more licenses issued than anywhere else in the country. They made it so easy. All you need is an address. I think they have something like, and I might have these numbers wrong, but literally they have something like 1,400 retail licenses. Now to put that in perspective, that's really in only 2 main states, Oklahoma City and what's the other one? The other big city in Oklahoma? Tulsa, thank you. In all of Washington, we only have 480 licenses.
John, one of the things you might check into is very often licensing has reciprocity rights. Like, for example, if you're a salon, you're a beautician in, I don't know, in New Jersey, you have to have a license. For example, you have to have a license to be a beautician, to do beauty services.
Okay.
And you have to go through some kind of schooling and whatever to get that. But once you have that, you can get a license in other states based on having one in New Jersey. I just used New Jersey as an example. So you might check into is that if you can get a license in Oklahoma, maybe the laws are written to be reciprocal in California. You probably could find that out.
Yeah, that's definitely a question worth asking. I feel like it would be
and then you
known.
get an address. Then you get an address in Oklahoma, get your license, and then apply for a reciprocal license in California, if it works like that.
It would be interesting to see how these things evolve, because like in New York, right? New York's going through the initial licensing process now. They have made sure that they're providing the people that were most impacted in a negative way by the war on drugs are actually the first ones getting licenses. So it's all about equity and equality for people that have been in prison, typically people of color that have been unfairly treated through the whole process. Those guys are getting licenses before anybody.
Mm-hmm.
You laughed when I said Oklahoma, but I know a guy in Washington that literally moved to Oklahoma so he could get set up in a new state.
Yeah, it's just like, why can't they have that in California? Like, I gotta move to Oklahoma for that.
Well, you have to have an address.
There you go. Lens on it.
But Len does bring up like kind of what I was talking about earlier. Like, there's no standard for it. So if there was a standard on the blockchain, what would take precedence?
Yeah, but I think the issue is regulation and public standards are two different things. You've got there are vested interests in regulation, and so in terms of cannabis, part of those vested interests are people's negative opinion about cannabis. That's a vested interest, and so. just because some standard exists on the blockchain doesn't mean that the regulators are going to give a damn.
I mean, I was just like foreseeing like tons of people applying for the same business application or something, but yeah, you're probably right.
John, the other thing I could offer you is, I got to Washington as licenses were pretty much already issued, the whole licensing process. I was watching it from Europe and I considered applying. But, I was kind of running into similar things that you're talking about, like, and what Len even said, like, where are you located? The costs weren't prohibitive, but it was a massive lottery. Anyway, my point is that getting involved wherever you get involved also puts you in an opportunity spot, right? Because once you're involved and you're part of the conversation and you're engaging with the industry, engaging with the community, things come up. And as more people are joining the room, it's one of those things that I'll restate why and what brought us to Cardano, right? We're in this thriving global cannabis community, massive opportunity, brand new industry that is notching up billion-dollar opportunities around the world. Well, how can cannabis and Cardano come together? We came to Cardano because of the community. We came to Cardano because of that community that's synonymous with helping each other thrive and grow. Cannabis is very much like that. And cannabis is a clean slate. So what do we want to build on foundationally with cannabis? Very, very much could be Cardano. It can be the Cardano blockchain. And we have a position to set it up in a way that as it goes global, so does Cardano. So anyway, I'll stop talking. I'll open up the floor. Welcome, Ray. Welcome, Dimitri. Welcome, Newman.
Oh, we got the family.
We're just talking about how cannabis and Cardano can work together.
Well, cannabis needs to work together with somebody because right now, for the small farmer anyway, it ain't working at all.
See y'all later. I'll let you guys enjoy, my brother. Enjoy. These guys are good guys. You pronounce J-O-8-N. The 8 is silent. His name is John. Then I'm trusting you with my brother. Dimitri, be cool. Hey, Dimitri, hook up with me later. I want to find out what's going on in Sri Lanka. All right. Bye.
Later,
I'm glad, John, that you said how to pronounce your handle there in one of the other forum sessions, because I couldn't figure it out.
It's like, right, it's obvious once I say it though, right?
Yeah.
Ray, you're so right.
Ray,
You're so right. The farmers are getting the shit kicked out of them up and down the West Coast, and it's going to continue as cannabis continues to push east.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The redefinition has arrived. Most people haven't read the sentence yet. Like that's all.
Yeah.
Like they just it's here, and probably as every other crisis, it has golden opportunities and a lot of like disastrous outcomes. Just like everything. It's a big transition.
One of the
but transitions are when there's opportunities.
Yeah.
That's when there's
Absolutely,
opportunities, is in transitions. And what Jhavid was saying is that, and I was mentioning to Nadia on the break, on the main room there, is that it seems to me that the cannabis community should be somehow similar to the crypto community, in which both are doing things that are considered like unusual or on the edge or not mainstream. and there should be some affinity between those two communities, and for Cardano to be like the main player, let's say the Cardano blockchain, to be the main player in the cannabis community, that represents a big growth population potential.
Yeah, absolutely, certainly. It's just what functionality do you want to layer in? Any cryptocurrency, and probably many will have the technology suitable, but it's building projects that confer value to to the medium of exchange, and that's why I think this whole catalyst movement and doing, just steadily, no matter what the prices are. I see my brother in this catalyst getting projects going that are the very foundation of value. You have projects that use the currency and allow that flow to happen. And for cannabis, I see a lot of potential uses.
Jhavid, maybe you want to share what your uses are, your use cases are?
Yeah, Ray, you starting off the comment about the farmer, it speaks to my heart. I've been out there with the farmers. That's where I started in the industry, is working with these people that have been in it for 20, 30 years. One of the big things that we're doing is really creating a way that farmers can leverage the quality that they're producing and making sure that they're able to differentiate their product from the massive production that's happening now that's flooding into the market. And being able to provide not only the supply chain, but also the consumer with that level of transparency and education about where their weed's coming from, how it was cultivated, even the genetic programs of the breeding programs that a lot of these old school growers have spent time and blood and tears and years, developing out. So part of that is a qualitative analysis, third-party, decentralized grading tool that puts people that are passionate about cannabis, puts them in the field with the tool that will allow them to actually qualitatively and quantitatively gather data around every single individual lot. Now that obviously impacts the entire supply chain, because now that once that snapshot of that cannabis has been taken at that specific point in time, it'll move through the supply chain, and each time it changes form or gets turned into another product, they have the opportunity to do another snapshot on it. And eventually it turns into, like on packaging, it will turn into a QR code underneath a quality verification symbol that the consumer can then check out what that cannabis is, what happened to it, what the true quality is. Now, I think what's going to be interesting is who wants to put that on their product and who doesn't. Well, anybody who does and is willing to be that transparent about their product, you're going to have a bigger following and build a community around your brand because you can be trusted. It's going to establish trust. And what it's also going to do is it's going to provide the farmer with a demand because he's producing a higher quality product, and to give them a reason to focus on quality at cost efficient value. Something else that we're doing for farmers, and what we've learned doing this, in Washington for 7 years, as well as in California and Oregon, is a lot of the farmers, they have their head down, they're in the field, they're growing plants, right? Well, what am I supposed to do with my product now that it's grown? So one of our other projects, it's called the Cannabis listing platform, global cannabis listing platform, that will provide anybody that is a buyer or seller, producer or manufacturer, to have a place to upload their product, which then gets that global attention. Now, the product's only going to be able to be traded based on regulation and state legalized requirements. However, you'll have a place where a data repository of all the cannabis that's available for buy and sell, right? And that alone will help connect the suppliers and the growers to a network of buyers, so they can stay focused on producing high quality cannabis, but they also know where that cannabis is going to go tomorrow.
Right. Yeah. I'm one of those growers, by the way. I just let you know.
Where are you
when I
based?
joined the room, I'm in Lower Lake, California, on the top of a 2,600 foot peak on, the little foothills around here.
Yeah, man. Well, right on. I appreciate what you do. I can't grow basil.
Yeah. We're a licensed farm, Noble Gardens, and, we've, just been involved with cannabis industry in California for at least 12, 13 years now. And my brother and I, Newman, have thought of a lot of different ways to use the blockchain and NFTs and coins to help do the farm, and how it could have a future in pretty much all products and things, but cannabis is what we're doing. But what you sound like, what you're describing sounds like a base of what those kind of systems will be out there for all quality control, probably. Cannabis is just a big industry to get it out in. Where are you at?
Based in Seattle, been in the industry
Seattle.
since early 15. And, I have friends that were in the legacy market and, they've had their own rides. But yeah, when I got into it, I was running a producer processor up here, hired in as their CEO. So I got my hands on the actual operation, right? I got to really understand what licensed operators were dealing with on their day to day.
Right.
But when I left that position, I really looked at the landscape and I just started asking myself, okay, where are we going to engage? Now, from a business opportunity, there was a clear path in terms of like wholesale and retail distribution. But I had read Howard Marks's book, Mr. Nice. I don't know if you checked it out. Pretty dope book when I was backpacking, like in my 20s. And I just loved how that guy moved container loads of cannabis all over the world. And as this thing was turning into, even in the medical days, as this thing was turning into a real industry, because I was involved in business and I was involved in global trade, in the back of my mind was like, man, like, how is this going to move? How is global cannabis going to work? Because mind you, I was importing and exporting seafood. I was importing and exporting consumer electronics all over the world. And there was regulation involved, right? There was regulation of all sorts. And so I started thinking about that and Rubic cubing that problem from a cannabis point of view. And that was really where we started solving the transactional issues for people like yourselves, growers or processors, people that were moving bulk wholesale B2B. You mentioned NFTs. I mean, one of our other proposals as well, it's really the supply chain for legal cannabis. It's all hinging on now, creating the technology for creating an NFT for a lot, or even fractionalizing the NFT that relates to a lot that provides a ton of social community value to the consumer. Like, cool, I bought this weed, now I have this NFT. So maybe I get first access to their next drop, right? And if someone's producing quality, there's gonna be a line. If somebody connects with their community, there's gonna be a line of people waiting for it. Maybe there's a secret sesh. We do that a lot up here in Washington because we're technically not allowed to have those kind of events. So there's a secret sesh. You got that NFT, you're gonna get pinged and that's your entry into your secret sesh. Or, right? There's a million and one ways to leverage it to create more of that social aspect. But I love that you and your brother have been thinking about it because, how do we get that done? Well, there's an opportunity now that we can apply to our supply chain. We can apply to our ecosystem and we can get it done. And it's exciting. It's fucking rad to be able to provide the value to the grower to leverage what they do really well at to carve out their place in the industry. One of the things that I use a hashtag farmer first, right? Like I go off about farmer first because here I am, I'm not legacy. I've got friends that are legacy. I'm not legacy. I believe all the legacy guys made this industry possible. I'm one of the business guys that have jumped into it after it's legalized and I'm making money off things that people are in fucking prison for. It doesn't make sense. Well, at the same time,
as a legacy person, I did a lot of, and not as much anymore, but you end up taking a lot of actions. No matter what kind of mind you have, you end up dealing with, you deal with some, I don't know, it's all gang, totally crazy. It's a crazy world you don't necessarily want to be involved with. I'm looking forward to becoming less legacy, because I still got a leg in the legacy, like I still ain't broken away. They keep pulling me back, they keep pulling me back. I try to get out, but you gotta, that would be a great thing too. Like, for the people in the know, like every time you buy this NFT or you use Cardano, you're adding to the legal defense fund for your friendly neighborhood outlaw, like you could do stuff like that. Like you're talking about with the secret sessions.
Ray, that's a good idea. Ray, that's a good idea.
Jhavid,
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
But you can add any layered contract into these currencies, and that's what is so cool, like it really is an open-ended make it up thing. As long as you're adding value, anytime you can add value that can be tracked, you can hack in more value into those currencies. Like it's just hilarious to me. And Cardano is doing it. You guys are doing it. Like every day I see my brother, he's like grinding it out with the, and just the slow drip of value. And then it starts to gain exponential growth in value. Fuck the price, grow the value, fuck the price. Just sorry about my language. I'm a cannabis outlaw.
I get excited like that too. Yeah, Dimitri, you started asking a question.
Yeah. So what are the opportunities for suppliers like growers, or for people who take the product and value add and make other stuff out of it to export and use and in some way use the blockchain to maximize both the growing side as well as the value addition and manufacturing side of things, and then thereafter to find markets in America which are looking for producers of various things and to use the blockchain to do that,
So
to verify supply.
Yeah, the way that we see the opportunity to use the blockchain is first and foremost is to create that, immutable ledger of taking snapshots of what cannabis is and what it isn't as it moves through the supply chain. I think the other thing that is obvious that we're doing with our technology is we're connecting it to the blockchain so we can create these NFTs that, like we were just talking about, will add value to not only what's being produced. Like I love the way that Ray talked about it, add value. That's kind of been a business ethos throughout my career, is if you add enough value, the price will come, right? That stuff will get taken care of. So we want to add value to the product as it moves through the supply chain. And we can do that with the NFT and the Cardano NFT. I mean, it's set up there. The technology now has to be built. In terms of trade, it's all localized. So that kind of connects it back to the other project that we're doing, is the global cannabis listing platform. Right now it's all localized. So only Washington license owners can trade with Washington license owners, and Oregon and California, et cetera, right? It's within those state borders. But our business model was built for national and global trade. Within America, it's state by state. It will loosen up. This global listing service and platform is going to really allow the network to come together nationally. And so as these state lines drop, it's going to be opened up. All that data on the blockchain, on that immutable ledger, right? Whether it's the supplier buyer data, whether it's the actual quality of the cannabis, right? The qualitative attributes, the lot data on the blockchain. But yes, the questions you're asking are the things that we're focusing on right now. And not to push our proposal on anybody, but that's what our proposals do. So if you guys are voters or want to know more information, I'll grab the links. I'll drop them in the comments. You guys can take a
So
closer
at the
look.
moment, America cannot import from any other country, is it?
No, they can't.
Legally?
There are some special DEA licenses that you can get authorized to do certain amount of work. I'm not very familiar with that process, but I do know some people that have been bringing in cannabinoids from Australia and New Zealand, and they've been doing some R&D work that the DEA has been oversight. But Europe right now is the biggest importer, specifically Germany. Most of their product comes out of Canada. Some of it comes out of South America. Some of it also comes out of Africa. And I was reading an article just last week. The Kenyan president is using as his platform that he wants to become one of the biggest growers and exporters of cannabis to Europe. So it's funny. It's actually working its way into politics in different parts of the world.
Yeah,
well,
I mean,
it's laying there
legalization might happen here in the near future. So in which case we want to be positioned to use both the blockchain to exploit all possible opportunities to get into whichever markets are willing to receive the product. So if legalization happens, then definitely that would be something that we would be looking to do.
Right. And that's one of the things that I'm also looking to start the conversation and to bring more, I guess, thought to it within the Cardano community, right? It's like, hey, there's this big opportunity in cannabis. Where and how do we exploit that as a community to further the goals of Cardano, to further the goals of blockchain, to further the goals of DeFi or whichever aspects that the blockchain and crypto are recreating opportunities out there. I don't necessarily have all the answers, right? I was sharing with John, every day I'm learning. Yeah, I've been in cannabis for 7 years. And he's like, oh, you seem to have a lot of knowledge. Sure, I picked up some shit, but I'm still learning every single day. The plant's still teaching. The industry's still teaching. Life's still teaching, so
I don't know whether you're,
what's
sorry,
that?
go ahead.
No.
No,
I get excited. I
was
can
going to
keep
say,
talking forever.
I was going to say, I don't know whether you're aware, but Sri Lanka has its own native strains of sativa, and they grow to 12 to 15 feet tall if left unattended. Plus, we've been growing it here for thousands of years.
Yeah.
And it's used in the Ayurvedic medicine practice as a very like a core product in many Ayurvedic medicines. So because of the British bringing the tobacco industry here, it is the British who basically banned cannabis, because every family used to grow cannabis in their own home and use it for a medicine, for their home medicines. So the British brought in tobacco, so they wanted to ban these people smoking their own plants and get them onto tobacco. So which is why they brought the ban on homegrown and growing anywhere else. And right now the situation is the Ayurvedic medicine industry is pushing for legalization so that they don't have to depend on 3 or 4 year old stock which has lost 75% of its potency, which is what they usually get, because they basically get stuff that was seized and kept in warehouses for a number of years. And as a result, it's lost a good amount of its potency. So they are very much in favor of the whole legalization aspect of things. So, so that is one of the things that's pushing the whole thing forward. Plus, everybody is now aware of the health benefits and all that. So it's not like just recreational stuff, but there are actual value-added things that people are aware that can be done with the product. So whether or not they release it for the local market, I don't know, but for sure they are going to legalize it for the export market, so that it might become a very carefully monitored. And even I think in the monitoring process, we could bring in some blockchain technology to ensure that like if X amount of plants are planted, and we can track how many mature to the budding stage and how many mature to the flowering stage and all that. So all those kind of things can be done to give confidence to the government that we are not trying to do some very slipshod kind of thing to release stuff to the local market in any way, but doing it in a very methodical, security oriented way, so that every plant is accounted for, and every bud is accounted for, and every product that's, even for that matter, once the plant flowers, like the roots and the leaves and all that have to be accounted for, so that it doesn't get into the local market. So all those sort of things, I think the blockchain could have solutions to help that. But speaking of your NFT idea, we had a proposal, or we have a proposal, and I spoke to one guy who was in he was trying to do a project where he was going to deliver weed from suppliers to dispensaries using bicycle cyclists and all that. So we had a proposal, and we have a proposal right now called delivery tracking through NFTs. So basically, where we generate an NFT at the pickup point and another NFT at the drop-off point, and those two NFTs can be input into a system which will track the route, I mean the pickup and the delivery time, the route this thing takes, so that everybody knows, okay, the shipment is on its way and it's right now at such and such a place, where it can be tied in with the GPS of the cyclist's phone. So as the NFT moves through different areas, we know the vehicle is moving through different areas, and then when it gets dropped off, we know that as well. And then there's a verification process at the drop-off point. So that's a proposal that we actually implemented for, or at least we are looking to implement for food delivery. But he's in the States. So he was very impressed with the idea of using our NFT program for delivering their product as well.
That's called Uber.
Yeah, but it's basically the NFT process is what we are looking for in terms of doing the whole thing for him. He wanted some verifiable process, because for some reason he was not happy with the existing traditional methods. So, so this is what he wanted. So that's another thing that's ongoing.
Dimitri, I'd love to know more about your system, because who knows, I'm very open to collaboration and seeing where and when and how, you know, we can come together and plug things in. I just shot you over my, my company email. So if you'd like to, we could get together and we could talk about it further, or you could send me information. Happy to look at it and see where we could get plugged into.
I will certainly do that. Yeah. It's, if you like, you can see it's under dApps products and integrations under the voting, under the Catalyst proposals.
Yep.
It's called delivery tracking through NFTs.
Delivery tracking through NFTs. Okay, cool. I'll take a look. I'll make a note of it now. Delivery tracking through NFTs.
I had a question after you're done with that.
Yeah, what's up? What you got? What you got?
So you're like, we were talking about small farmers. I think that's why Dimitri was mentioning, but what is like the minimum requirement? Like, could I just do my backyard? Like, is there a minimum product requirement?
You want to speak to that, Ray, since you're down in Cali, and so
It could be local. Oh yeah.
Oh, you're muted, Ray.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was trying to not, I got a kid playing video games and trying to keep that out of the mix. What was the question one more time?
It was pretty much like, what's the minimum to have a legal grow? Like, could you just have a backyard and just deal your own product, like with the license?
Not under licensure, but under law, you can grow the minimum and the maximum for the home grower, not the minimum, but the max is pretty minimal, is 6 flowering plants and 6 non-flowering plants. So 12 plants total, 6 in the flowering stage.
I guess.
But you don't
like, I guess
have
if
any
I
ability
wanted
to. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say,
He's breaking up. Is he breaking up for anybody else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, was I, did you lose me?
Yeah, you were breaking up. You roboted out.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, they haven't given out any licenses in my city. So if I did that and I applied for a license just out of my house, because you can have a home business.
Are you in California? It's all state dependent.
Yeah, Orange County.
Yeah, you can't.
County.
You're not going to be able to start out of your home. But you know, it's very depending. If you're very small scale, for them to track your transactions at a small level is pretty tough. And really, that's the only way you're going to make any black market money anymore, or any money for that matter.
I just want to get it on the blockchain though, like how I did it from just one person. You know what I mean?
Well, you could do that as a gifting economy, where it wasn't, but you might be in some kind of
on the
situation.
blockchain.
I think people, you could do a gifting economy on the blockchain.
Yeah, that's true.
Especially if you had some kind of value going towards your supplies and that kind of thing. And I think with the NFTs, they're the value
I was just gonna bring that up.
is not dependent on the value of the Cardano. So you can assign any value from free to whatever. So that would be a way to get around the fact that you're using
I just asked this morning this legal expert for the blockchain, and I asked her, if I give governance rights to NFTs, can they not count as a security? And she said, yeah, it'll just be a token. But she said she'd have to talk or think about it more, but then there's even less
Yeah.
regulation on it because it's not a security. I mean, and
I mean, it's just a contract, and you can make a contract for your gifts, like
I was gonna tell all of you too. Have you guys seen DALL-E 2, the
I have.
AI thing?
I
beta-
look into that a lot. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
The beta came out today, or I've had it the past like 2 or 3 days, but that's gonna change the NFT game completely. Like I
'Cause
think
you can
it's
make an
like
image, you could generate a million
I think
images
it's
and pick your best one, and they're great images. They're great.
like I was able to get like 60 of them in an hour that were like, whoa, like I have to look
Yeah,
at
that's
this for
pretty
like
crazy.
5 seconds. Yeah. But
Yeah,
I just feel like
that whole space is incredibly it's going to be so disruptive. It already is, and people don't know. Like,
I mean,
people are using AI
yeah,
for so much now. Like people,
for
not the
art,
corporations.
yeah.
The art
The
and
art, I
writing,
mean, yeah,
in the
like I think
Catalyst.
that's what cannabis is and like psychedelics, like that's all art. That's
Yeah,
I
on
don't
all
know.
levels though, not
Yeah.
just visual, but I mean, it's mind manifesting, and that's pretty much art.
Right. Art's
That's
our best interpretation of it.
of the mind. Yeah.
What was that
And
called?
then the psychedelics.
What was that called, John?
DALL-E 2. It's spelled DALL hyphen E space 2.
Okay.
That's one of the reasons, Ray, why I've really been working hard is to make sure as many farmers make it. Because it is art and it is that diversity, whether it's of genetics or knowledge base, we need to make sure that the more people that touch the plant, they stay, they don't just get steamrolled. And I see the health of our industry, it really is like the health of the plant. The roots are these legacy operators, right? That's where it came from. The roots of this burgeoning industry really are the legacy operators that are comfortable to take this jump and transition to the legal. So if we're going to have a healthy industry, we need to have a healthy root ball. And that is our farmers. That is our growers. Those are the people that have transitioned from, legacy into the new rec space. So that's why, for me, it is all about farmer first. And how do we make sure that maintains and stays? That's that genetic makeup, the quality genetic makeup. We don't need this to be a fucking Monsanto controlled crop. And
I think those guys will get pretty good at it too, though. I mean, I'm realistic about what, they'll produce as fine a cannabis as the most advanced craft grower, because the genetics really do most of the work, and the scale of high quality will just continue to rise and rise, which is why you need contracts and oops. Am I still there?
Ray, Ray, I think there's a real good comparison to the coffee industry. Is that Nestle buys tons and tons and tons of normal beans to make instant coffee from, and they've done it forever. Then there's just like in one little coffee shop, I live in Oxford now, they had real nice coffee, and they said they're buying it from a grower in Peru who grows in the rainforest, and yada yada yada. But I mean, there's different interests, there's different marketplaces, and so for sure, as the industry grows and a Monsanto or Cargill starts to grow at the large scale, there's still an opportunity, because, for example, you couldn't, from what I understood you just say, you couldn't grow enough to serve a Nestle kind of a consumer or a refiner, but you can grow something that's a, let's say, a high grade strain.
Well, I think that the Nestle the comparison doesn't work so much for the coffee. You know where the comparison lies for me is the commercialization of the Dutch flower industry, and every single one of those flowers, because that's what we're dealing with, are flowers. It isn't coffee where the handling happens like in a big bulk situation, and the fine, like these are flowers, and in the Dutch, model.
I
They just have
agree.
super massive production, massive, and their quality is super high. And that will happen with cannabis. Unfortunately, I mean, I'm a grower. I would love to have the rose colored glasses and say like these big growers are never going to be able to match my high craft cannabis. It's just not true. They're going to grow and produce, maybe even, I mean, this is true with indoor growers compared to sun growers. Their quality will far surpass what the small scale grower is doing. And that's where you have to bring in, I don't know if anybody remembers Famous Amos cookies,
Yeah.
Sure.
you know? Well, Famous Amos cookies kind of sucked. They did. They're little shitty cookies, but he had cause marketing, and that was his whole thing. Like he created like a personality, and people aren't buying your cannabis when they're buying your cannabis necessarily. Like people want to support a functioning vital cause, and then they want to kick down to make those functioning vital causes grow. And so you have to like really develop your cause for cannabis. Especially cannabis has always been cause, you know, like people supported the people that were on the front lines fighting for justice and protesting, and had the balls to put up the first dispensary. And in cannabis, it's really that, not just lip service to regenerative permacultural farming, but it is the actual like living that those higher ideal goals for a farm, you know. And that's where I think the differentiation will be. In other words, I could give you some cannabis from the Marlboro greenhouses when they finally get here and mine, and you might even prefer the Marlboro, honestly, because it's genetics. There's so little processing to do with cannabis. You know what I mean? Like the plant does all the work if you provide it with the appropriate nutrition. But something that especially younger and less mature consumers judge cannabis on the stickiness and the crystal formation and its color, you know, if it's bright green and everything, which, you know, it just hasn't oxidized at all. Whereas a more mature consumer can actually differentiate with some pretty refined criteria that have not been really explored by the common marketplace. You know, like their kids are just like, give me the strongest THC and I want it as goddamn sticky as possible. And, you know,
That's why they dab.
Yeah, right. They dab and they just blow you know, everybody gets their minds blown out. But you know, if anybody's familiar with Frenchy Cannoli, I don't know, he makes hash that is
hash extraordinaire. Just passed.
Yeah, but his hash does not look like the hash that most people want, that blonde, you know. He goes to the dark side, which most people judge hash that's dark to be crappy. I see Frenchy Cannoli is kind of like the most advanced person for the maturation of the market. So, but that's 20 years away. And for me, you find a small niche that will appreciate your craft that you're pushing to the limits that most people can't even see or appreciate and might even devalue. But if you do that and you find that small niche, you'll be there ahead of the curve. You know, like shooting a duck at duck hunting, you have to shoot way ahead of the duck. But by the time this 20 years rolls around and that market's mature, you've got 20 years of slow growth, maturation into understanding, developing, and putting out education. Like Frenchy could sell his hash, and this is a very good example, a hash that was not even as good really as some other people's high quality hash, you know, like, or not as marketable, but because he was Frenchy, he was getting $130 a gram or sometimes insane amounts per gram because it's him, you know. And I think that's where,
I mean, dude,
go ahead.
I feel like sometimes like who I get it from, like their personality is in it to some degree.
Well, and with an NFT and with smart contracts in a Cardano system, it won't be in some mystical, metaphysical way. It'll be straight up right there.
It'll be visible.
It'll be visible and tangible in a digital way. Digital but tangible.
Yeah.
and you will be able to weigh it with the value of a currency. And that's how we weigh things that are intangible, you know, like how much would you pay me for this Picasso? Like, you know, like this is
Right.
the same amount of paint and framing as this other thing over here. And it might not even be as good,
like,
you know, like it's, if you catch my
and
analogy
what you're
there.
saying, yeah, if like what you're saying with Frenchie too, like if
You're stoned too, huh?
I kind of lost it.
It's so
I do
close.
that
So
frequently.
close.
Oh, I mean, I was just gonna say like the metadata and all that stuff, like it'll see like who you hung out with and stuff, and like especially on the local level, like who you are to your local community where it matters the most, and where you like hopefully you're growing food, vegetables, cannabis, everything. Like,
Yeah, I mean, that would be ideal.
I mean, this is
and
the
if you
future
really
I
wanna,
see. Like,
if you really want to step up your
I
publicity game, you got to
mean,
grow
I
the mushrooms right
feel
now.
like it's a net. Right, and that though, that's like that's anybody could do that. You don't even need a backyard, you just need a closet.
Well, I'm not talking about just psilocybin
feel like-
or even psilocybin at all. I'm saying like as part of your farming process, you better be growing some mushrooms if you want
Oh,
people to go, wow,
yeah.
when they come over.
Get
I
some
mean, oyster
reishi, some
mushrooms,
chaga. Yeah.
reishi.
Yeah.
See, I have the, I
Some
started
cordyceps.
and own the I have the largest mushroom growing group on planet Earth right now, mine. I did it myself. As far as like members in the list of, on Facebook, 235,000 or something like that on Facebook group.
What's the name? I'd love to join it.
It's called Mushroom Growing. And yeah, you can learn how to grow anything, but we don't allow for psychedelic mushroom talk just because Facebook tries to ban us from being alive. So we keep it under the radar, but basically all the techniques that are discussed will grow whatever mushroom you want, right? Yeah.
It's public knowledge. Like there's books. It's
Yeah, there may be books, but the things that I would know to make a farm scale mushroom production, you don't find it in books.
Oh, videos?
You could look videos.
I mean, I've
look
seen
at
videos on YouTube.
I'm just talking about really unique, unusual ways to take the mushroom and grow it without a lot of investment capital and that kind of thing, you know, like that. And you can see it in like
from
the Thai
different
growers.
too.
What's that?
You have the knowledge of like different climates as well. Like which would grow best when it's hot or like cold here, or like nice.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah, because if you're gonna
grow,
I
would think that would be really important.
You would have to flip flop the species to match the season. Seasonal, they're hot weather mushrooms, they're colder weather mushrooms.
All right. I'm just thinking
I really want to do it for my cannabis farm because I want to show people how I build the soil. Like that's part of the cannabis. Like for me, that growing mushrooms is a fundamental way to take like cheap inputs. You get wood chips for free. You get horse manure for free. You get cut grass for free. And you turn those things into a high value mushroom. And then you step down that process into turning it into amazing worm food after it's yielded a crop. And also you can use it as mulch. So it kind of goes two streams after that. You go the mulch stream with your manure, with your grass and your wood chips into mulch, and then also to feed the worm beds. And then the worm beds produce your amazing worm casting compost, which is a cold composting system. And you get the best nutrient and soil builder on the planet, which is worm crap, you know? And then so you got this beautiful system. And especially if you hook up solar, I got an apartment building size hot water solar system that I bought real cheap off of Craigslist. I'm trying to hook that up to sterilize and pasteurize. You heat treat the mushroom medium. So if you add that in, pretty soon you're going to have somebody coming over to do their YouTube video at your place or their magazine article, and they're going to show off this system that I just described, and people are going to be like, God damn, I want that cannabis, not because the cannabis was so great, but because the methodology of the growing, which is documented and guaranteed in a smart contract. You know, like
You brought it all the way back around.
Yeah, that's the unique transparency that these consumers
Whoa.
need access to, because it will make a difference and they will connect to what you're doing differently. Gentlemen,
You could
I'd
put that
love
in a
to-
smart contract.
I've loved the conversation. It's absolutely been awesome. I'm going to keep doing these
Thank you.
rooms weekly. So let's link up next week. Let's keep the conversation going. I planned for an hour. We've just gone over it. So I need to shut down the room and get to another meeting, but like super grateful for all of your input, all of your sharing, all the work you guys are doing.
Well,
Yeah,
I like your cut, G.
thank you.
If I start voting, I'll vote for your project or whatever. I'm just getting into this. I've seen my brother doing these meetings and he's all excited about it. And I know I could, like, I just think I could do this. I could talk about crazy shit all day long with some cannabis's help too.
Yeah,
Thanks for doing this. I'll vote for your project.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the support, 100%. Great to
No
meet
problem.
you, Ray. John, great to meet you. Len, nice to see you again. Appreciate
Great to meet you
guys.
too.
Be well, gentlemen.
Be well.
Later.
Over and out.